When Chioma managed to reach the venue of her wedding, it was already too late. The ceremony was almost over. And there, standing beside Eric in her wedding gown, was her twin sister, Chichi. Her mother stood in the front row, smiling proudly. Chioma's heart pounded as she stormed forward. "What is going on?" Chichi turned to her with a smirk. "Oh, sister, you're too late." Chioma and Chichi were twins, but that was where their similarities ended. From childhood, it was clear that they were two completely different people, not just in their personalities, but in the way they were treated. Chioma was quiet, focused, and hardworking. She loved to read, always eager to learn something new. If she wasn't studying, she was helping their father with his business or assisting their mother in the kitchen. Their father adored her diligence and often said, "Chioma, my daughter, you will go far in life because you don't wait for things to come to you. You work for them." Chichi, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. She was loud, playful, and carefree. She had little interest in books, always looking for the easiest way to get through school. While Chioma spent her evenings reading, Chichi spent hers gossiping with friends, going to parties, or scrolling endlessly through social media. But despite their differences, Chioma never saw her sister as a bad person, just different. Chichi had a charm that made people love her. She could talk her way out of trouble and get almost anything she wanted with just a smile. She was effortlessly beautiful, the kind of girl who turned heads when she walked into a room. And their mother loved her for it. While their father encouraged Chioma to work hard and be independent, their mother spoiled Chichi endlessly. If Chioma wanted something, she had to prove she deserved it. Good grades, hard work, responsibility. But for Chichi, it was different. If she wanted something, all she had to do was ask. "Mommy, I need a new phone." "Okay, my baby. I will talk to your father." "Mommy, I need money for new clothes." "Don't worry, I will send it to you." It didn't matter if she deserved it or not. Their mother always found a way to make sure Chichi had the best of everything. And the worst part, she made it clear who her favorite was. Chioma never complained. She loved her mother, even if she knew she wasn't her favorite. She was close to her father, and that was enough. But as they grew older, the differences between them became more obvious. Chioma worked hard in school, excelling in her studies. She was determined to make something of herself, to prove that she could succeed on her own. She graduated with a first-class degree, making her father proud. Chichi, on the other hand, struggled through school. She barely attended lectures, relying on friends and last-minute reading to pass. When her results came out, she had just managed to graduate by the skin of her teeth. Their father was disappointed but not surprised. Their mother, however, acted like it didn't matter. "Degree is degree," she said dismissively. "As long as she finished, that's all that matters." Chioma didn't argue. She had learned a long time ago that there was no point. But there was one thing about the twins that had always stood out. They were identical. Not just similar. Identical. Their resemblance was so striking that even close friends and family sometimes mixed them up. As children, their father had to rely on a small birthmark behind Chioma's left ear to tell them apart. As they grew older, Chioma found her own way of standing out. She dressed simply, wore minimal makeup, and focused on her academics. Chichi, on the other hand, loved attention. She wore bold outfits, experimented with different hairstyles, and always had a perfectly made-up face. This difference was what helped people tell them apart. When the NYSC postings were released, both of them were surprisingly posted to the same camp. And that was when everything began to change. Chioma didn't think much about being posted to the same NYSC camp as Chichi. They had lived in the same house their whole lives, so sharing a camp for some months didn't seem like a big deal. Besides, she was focused on making the most of her service year, networking, gaining experience, and preparing for life after NYSC. But from the first day at camp, it became clear that things would not be so simple. Chioma arrived early, eager to settle in and understand the rules. She immediately got to work, making friends with fellow corps members, participating in activities, and attending all the training sessions. The long hours under the sun were exhausting, but she didn't mind. She had always been the type to push herself, to do things the right way. Chichi, on the other hand, was another story. She arrived late and refused to carry her own luggage, charming one of the male corps members into helping her. While others were busy settling in, she was already looking for ways to make camp life easier for herself. She hated stress and saw no reason to start now. "Chioma, this thing is not for me," Chichi complained one evening, stretching her legs on her bed while scrolling through Instagram. "Waking up by 4 a.m. to do parade. My dear, I didn't come here to suffer." Chioma sighed, used to her sister's attitude. "Then why did you come?" "Because I have to." "But that doesn't mean I have to suffer like you." She grinned mischievously. "I've already found a way to make this place enjoyable." Chioma didn't bother asking what that meant. She knew her sister too well. If there was a way to escape stress, Chichi would find it. True to her words, Chichi spent more time socializing than actually participating in camp activities. She quickly became popular among corps members, especially the guys. Her beauty and charisma made her the center of attention wherever she went. While Chioma was earning respect through hard work, Chichi was earning attention through charm. At first, Chioma didn't mind. She had her own goals and didn't care about being popular. But then something happened that changed everything. She met Eric. It started like a simple friendship. Eric was in her platoon, and they often found themselves working on the same tasks. He was smart, confident, and had a sense of humor that made even the hardest days in camp enjoyable. Their friendship grew quickly, and before long, it turned into something more. For the first time in a long time, Chioma felt truly happy. She had never been the type to rush into relationships, but with Eric, things felt natural. He was kind and supportive, always encouraging her to dream bigger and work harder. Unlike most men who were intimidated by her intelligence, Eric admired it. She knew it was serious when she found herself talking about him to her father. "Papa, I met someone." Her father, always protective of her, listened carefully. "Tell me about him." "His name is Eric. He's smart, hardworking, and different from other guys I've met." Her father nodded, his expression unreadable. Then he sighed. "Hold your man well, Chioma." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He gave her a knowing look. "You and Chichi might be twins, but you're not the same. And if there's one thing I know about your sister, it's that she doesn't like seeing someone else have what she can't." Chioma laughed. "Papa, Chichi doesn't even care about my relationship." Her father didn't look convinced. "Just be careful." She dismissed his warning at the time. After all, Chichi had never shown interest in her love life before. Chioma's relationship with Eric continued to grow throughout their time at the NYSC camp. They spent a lot of time together, working on group assignments, eating meals at the mommy market, and sharing dreams about the future. Eric made everything feel easy, and for the first time in her life, Chioma felt truly loved. Chichi, on the other hand, seemed completely unbothered. She continued with her carefree lifestyle, making different friends and getting attention from multiple men, as usual. Whenever Chioma brought up Eric in conversation, Chichi would just nod casually and say something like, "That's nice. I'm happy for you." Chioma had no reason to suspect anything. After camp ended, she and Eric kept dating, and before long, he proposed. It was the happiest moment of her life. When she told her family, her father was overjoyed and gave his blessing immediately. Her mother, though not particularly thrilled, still managed to smile and say, "Congratulations." Chichi hugged Chioma and laughed. "Wow! My twin is getting married before me. What a miracle." Her tone was playful, and her smile seemed genuine. The months leading up to Chioma's wedding were filled with excitement. She was busy with preparations, choosing her dress, picking a venue, and planning the traditional and church ceremonies. Eric was supportive, involved in every detail, making sure she wasn't stressed. Her father helped as much as he could, while her mother, well, she wasn't exactly enthusiastic. She wasn't against the wedding, but she wasn't happy about it either. Whenever Chioma talked about Eric, her mother would just nod absent-mindedly, never showing much interest. Chioma assumed it was because her mother never really favored her in the first place. But she had no idea her mother was thinking of something far more sinister. One evening, a few weeks before the wedding, her mother called Chichi into her bedroom. Chichi entered lazily, fixing her nails. "Mama, hope this is not another long talk." Her mother eyed her. "Sit down." Sighing, Chichi sat on the edge of the bed. "What is it?" Her mother folded her arms. "How do you feel about Chioma getting married?" Chichi shrugged. "It's fine. Good for her." Her mother scoffed. "You're telling me you're okay with it?" "You, Chichi." Chichi frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" Her mother leaned in. "Have you really looked at Eric? That man is not an ordinary man. He's young, rich, responsible, and loves with his whole heart. Do you know how rare that is?" Chichi shifted uncomfortably. "So, it's Chioma's luck?" Her mother hissed. "Chioma's luck? And what about you? What do you have?" She looked at her daughter from head to toe. "Look at you, beautiful, charming, everything a man should want. Yet, what do you have to show for it? Men use you, dump you, and move on. But Chioma, she just met one man, and now she's settling down comfortably." Chichi's face darkened. "That's not my fault, Mama. I didn't plan to be single." Her mother nodded slowly. "Exactly. But what if I told you that you don't have to be?" Chichi stared at her. "What are you saying?" Her mother's lips curled into a small smile. "What if I told you that the man you've been looking for is right in front of you? That the husband you've been praying for is about to marry your sister?" Chichi blinked, shocked. "Mama, listen to me." Her mother grabbed her hand. "Chioma doesn't deserve Eric. You do." Chichi swallowed. "But she loves him." Her mother laughed mockingly. "And so what? Love is not enough. You need a man that will take care of you, protect you, and give you a good life. Eric is that man. And I will not stand by and let your sister take what should be yours." Chichi was speechless. The idea had never crossed her mind. Take Eric. It sounded crazy and wrong. But the more her mother spoke, the more the thoughts settled into her mind. "It's not stealing," her mother continued. "It's just correcting a mistake. You and Chioma were switched at birth. She got what was meant for you, and now, we are simply taking it back." Chichi's heart pounded. Could she really do this? Her mother leaned in. "All you have to do is trust me." Chichi left her mother's room feeling uneasy. The words kept replaying in her head. "Chioma doesn't deserve Eric. You do." She tried to shake it off. "It's ridiculous. Chioma is my twin. Her man is her man." But the more she thought about it, the more something inside her started to shift. Why did Chioma always get the good things? Chichi had spent her whole life being the shadow, the twin that wasn't as serious, the one people admired but never truly respected. Meanwhile, Chioma, the responsible one, had everything handed to her. Her father's love, a first-class degree, and now, a perfect man. What about me? A few days later, her mother brought it up again. They were in the kitchen, peeling yams for dinner. "So, have you thought about what I told you?" her mother asked casually. Chichi frowned. "Mama, let it go. It's Chioma's wedding." Her mother chuckled. "So?" She glanced at her. "Or are you waiting for me to spell it out for you?" Chichi ignored her, slicing the yam harder than necessary. Her mother wiped her hands and leaned in. "My dear, I know you think it's impossible. But nothing in this life is impossible. Let me ask you one thing. Do you want Eric?" Chichi hesitated. Want him? She wasn't sure. She wasn't in love with him, at least not yet. But she wanted his type of man. A man that would take care of her, love her, and not treat her like trash. Her mother smirked. "See, you don't have to answer. I already know." Chichi sighed. "Even if I did, it's too late. They're getting married in a few weeks." Her mother leaned in, lowering her voice. "That's why we have to act fast." Chichi looked at her, heart pounding. "Mama, what are you planning?" Her mother smiled. "Trust me, my dear. Just trust me." That evening, Chioma felt an odd restlessness settle in her chest. The house was filled with excitement, relatives chatting in hushed voices, her mother fussing over last-minute details. But something felt off. She couldn't place it. Dinner was served, and her mother personally brought her a plate. Chioma found it a bit odd but later brushed it aside. "You need to eat well, my dear," her mother said, smiling warmly. "Tomorrow is a big day." Chioma nodded and took a few bites, but halfway through the meal, an overwhelming wave of exhaustion washed over her. Her eyelids felt heavy, her limbs sluggish. She frowned. "Mama, I feel so tired all of a sudden." Her mother placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "It's just the stress, my dear. You've been running around all day. Go and rest." Chioma wanted to protest, but her body refused to cooperate. She barely made it to her room before collapsing onto her bed. Her last thought before sleep consumed her was a fleeting sense of unease. Something was wrong. The morning sun streamed through the window, but Chioma remained motionless. The drug her mother had given her was strong enough to keep her in a deep, unnatural sleep. Meanwhile, in a hotel room across town, Chichi sat before a large mirror. The wedding dress fit her perfectly. The veil covered her face just enough. Her mother stood behind her, adjusting the fabric with steady hands. "You are the bride now, remember, don't talk too much. Just smile and nod," she whispered. Chichi stared at her reflection. Would Eric realize it wasn't Chioma standing beside him? Probably not. Her mother touched her shoulder. "You are the bride now. Act like it." Moments later, a black car arrived. She was escorted inside and driven to the church. At the church, Chioma's father, unaware of the deception, glanced around. "Where's Chichi?" he asked. Her mother gave him a reassuring smile. "Oh, she's been busy all morning with something in the house. She'll be here soon." And just like that, the lie continued. Chioma's eyes fluttered open. At first, her mind was a blur. She stared at the ceiling, blinking, struggling to process where she was. Then it hit her. Her wedding. She sat up sharply but immediately felt a wave of dizziness. Her head pounded, her limbs weak. What time was it? Panicking, she reached for her phone, but it was gone. Her heart raced as she stumbled out of bed, gripping the walls for support. "Hello," she called out. But the house was empty. A shiver ran down her spine. Where was everyone? Her breath came in short, panicked gasps as she checked the rooms one by one. No sign of her mother. No sign of her father. No sign of Chichi. Then, through the eerie silence, realization struck her like lightning. They did this. Her mother and her twin sister. They drugged her. That was why she felt so weak the previous night. She rushed back to her room, forcing her trembling hands to grab whatever clothing she could find. She had to go. She had to stop them. Chioma arrived at the wedding venue, breathless and sweating. The wedding had almost ended. She shoved past guests at the entrance, her heart hammering in her chest. And then she saw them. Standing at the altar. Chichi. Wearing her dress. Holding Eric's hand. They were dancing. Chioma's body went cold. Guests were smiling, clapping softly. At the front row, her mother sat, her lips curling into a satisfied smile. Chioma felt rage surge through her veins. With a strangled scream, she ran forward. "Stop!" Gasps erupted from the crowd. Eric's head snapped toward her. The room fell into stunned silence. Chichi turned, her face carefully composed. Then, a slow smirk spread across her lips. "Oh, sister," she said sweetly, "you're too late." Chioma's breath hitched. "What have you done?" she choked out. Eric's eyes darted between them, confusion turning into horror. "Chioma." Chioma turned to him desperately. "Eric, it's me. They drugged me. She stole my place." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Her father stepped forward, his face dark with anger. "What is going on here?" Chioma's voice broke as she explained, tears rolling down her face. "Daddy, I woke up late this morning, I felt drugged. My phone was gone. No one was in the house. I rushed here only to see this." She turned to Chichi, her voice shaking. "You took my place." Eric staggered backward, yanking his hand from Chichi's grip. His expression twisted in shock and betrayal. Her father turned to his wife. "Is this true?" Her mother simply lifted her chin, not a hint of remorse in her eyes. "I did what needed to be done." The guests erupted in whispers. Eric's parents exchanged horrified glances. Chichi's face darkened. "Why does she always get everything?" she spat. "Why does Chioma always get the perfect life? The love. The attention." Chioma flinched. "You're my sister, Chichi. I would have shared everything with you." Chichi's expression twisted with resentment. "I don't want to share. I want my own happiness." Her father turned to his wife in disbelief. "And you supported this madness?" Her mother's voice remained calm. "Eric deserves a wife who listens. Who respects him. Chioma is too strong-willed." Eric clenched his jaw. "So you thought tricking me into marrying someone else was the solution?" Chichi took a shaky step forward. "Eric, listen, But he backed away. His hands curled into fists, his voice cold. "You disgust me." Silence. Chichi paled. Chioma sobbed, turning to her mother. "Why do you hate me so much?" Her mother didn't answer. Eric met her gaze, guilt washing over his face. "Chioma, I am so sorry." The room remained frozen in tension. Then, Eric turned to the priest. "The wedding is off." A loud gasp rippled through the church. Chichi let out a shaky breath, horror dawning on her face. "No. No, Eric, you love me. I don't even know you, he said coldly. The church was silent. All eyes were on Chioma's father as he turned to his wife and Chichi, his expression filled with disappointment. You have disgraced me, he said, his voice low but firm. Chioma's mother stepped forward. I was only trying to. Enough. He cut her off sharply. You betrayed your own daughter for money. And you, Chichi, your own sister. You plotted against her and brought shame to this family. Chichi burst into tears. Papa, please. He pointed toward the church doors. I want both of you out of my house today. Gasps echoed through the congregation. Papa, where will we go? Chichi sobbed. You should have thought of that before you destroyed your own blood. His tone left no room for argument. Chioma's mother and Chichi stood frozen for a moment before reality sank in. With nowhere else to turn, they walked out of the church, humiliated. Chioma's father turned to Eric next. You had the chance to trust my daughter, but you failed. Leave now, and never come near my family again. Eric swallowed hard, his face pale. Without another word, he turned and left, his dreams of marriage shattered. Chioma took a deep breath. She had been humiliated, betrayed, but she was free. Her father placed a hand on her shoulder. Let's go home, my daughter. But Chioma shook her head. No, Papa. I need to start over, somewhere far away from all this. He studied her for a moment before nodding slowly. If that is what you want, I will support you. A week later, Chioma packed her bags and moved to another state. She found a small apartment and started working as an assistant at a fashion house. It wasn't glamorous, but it was a start. The beginning was tough. She worked long hours, barely had enough money, and often questioned her decision. But every time she thought of the past, she reminded herself why she left. She was building something for herself. Years passed, and her hard work paid off. She was promoted, gained recognition, and eventually started her own fashion brand. Soon, her name, Chioma Okafor, became a symbol of success and resilience. 5 years later, Chioma returned home, to the city where her father still lived. She had changed, no longer the naive girl who was betrayed but a strong, successful woman. Chioma walked straight to her father's compound. When he opened the door and saw her, his eyes filled with emotion. Chioma. She smiled. Papa, I'm home. He pulled her into a tight embrace. I am proud of you, my daughter. Tears stung her eyes. She had left as a broken woman, but she had returned strong, successful, and whole. She had won. What would you have done if you were in Chioma's shoes? Would you have walked away forever or still returned home? Comment your thoughts below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing African stories.